Hey YouTube family.
Welcome to our channel.
Henry and Caitlin.
Why are you like echoing me today?
Like Henry and Caitlin?
Plus Mazda.
Plus Mazda.
Be Mazda.
Yep.
Be Mazda Seepin.
So today we're going to talk about a topic. We're trying to compare Canada versus Qatar, or living in Canada versus Qatar, because we have experiences in both places.
Yes.
Right? So currently we live in Qatar. We used to live in Canada, but currently we're in Qatar right now in the Middle East. So we're going to try to...
This is based on our experience. So we moved to Qatar on international job contracts.
Yeah.
Living in Canada, obviously we were just working our typical day jobs.
Because in Canada, you can move to Canada and then just get a job and then that's fine, right? But in Qatar, until recently, I think it's changing a bit, but majority, I can say 80% of people, people are here. They move, you have to get a contract with an employer before you can move here.
You're right.
Right? So we also move in the same circumstance.
Yeah, so most people who are living in Qatar are underneath employment underneath a contract with their employer, and people in Canada are kind of by themselves.
Yeah.
To make that sense. So that's kind of the biggest thing that you'll see throughout this video. It really affects housing, because here in Qatar on our international contract, we are provided housing, which is great because housing in Qatar is quite expensive. We found out after we moved here. If you want to rent, I don't even know if you can buy as an expat. I think you can.
Yeah,
but even renting, I know you have to pay like a whole year's worth of rent here. They are quite, I would say they're quite comparative to, let's say, the average cost across Canada. Maybe not Ontario, but like the average cost across Canada of what you would get for like a 3-bedroom apartment here to a 3-bedroom apartment, in Canada somewhere. Canada's housing and renting costs are just absolutely ridiculous. I mean,
but that's also in Toronto, because even before that, right? It depends in which part of the city you're in, and in Toronto at that time. Because right now, even in any part of Canada, because you can still rent a place in Canada right now. In Toronto right now, it depends on the area you are for. Let's say $700 a month. Yes, you can still rent a place in Toronto right now for $700.
No, you can't.
What do you mean you can't?
You're a little out of touch.
No.
You haven't rented it.
It depends on where you are. It depends on which part of Toronto you are talking about. It's not everywhere.
Henry, when I left, I was paying $800 for a bedroom, and that was not in Toronto. That was in Thornhill.
Thornhill is expensive area, actually.
That was actually Richmond Hill, Thornhill, doesn't matter. I was paying $800 for not even a 1-bedroom apartment. I was paying $800 for a bedroom in a 3-bedroom apartment in a basement. You're a little out of touch.
No, I don't think so.
Anyways, all I'm gonna say is that living in Canada, the cost of rent has become so high that we were not able to save for a mortgage. Even trying to look at mortgages, it's just unattainable for most people at this point in stage. We were finding it unattainable as well. Agree?
Slightly agree, because I think as much as I know that rents have gone up in Canada, I know that you can still...
What do you think the average rent is right now in Ontario? Not even just talking about in Toronto. I'm talking in Ontario. What do you think the average rent is?
What's the average rent in Ontario?
I know it's higher than what you think it is. What do you think it is?
Give
me a number.
I would think like it's 700, 800.
Absolutely not. I'm pretty sure last time I looked it up, it was 1,200. We will double check this though. Comment below if you know the average rent in Ontario, because he is wrong. It is not 700. I'm pretty sure it's up over 1,000.
Because as much as I know that rents have gone up in Canada, I still feel like you could do, especially if you do your own due diligence and go around, you will still find a nice place to rent. I mean,
not nice places. Yeah, you can find a place to rent for 700. Sure, it ain't gonna be nice. You will be sleeping with the roaches.
No, I don't think so.
Please, someone
I still don't believe
help me. Anyways,
I will do my research.
Anyways, going back to the comparison, if you're coming to Qatar on an international job contract, you get your housing covered, and that makes it a great benefit. Huge, huge, huge benefit. One of the biggest reasons we moved here. What next do you want to compare? Food? Okay, groceries or eating out?
Eating out.
Okay, start. Eating out.
Well, eating out here, I I think it's cheaper.
Here
Generally,
as
it's cheaper in Qatar than is it in Canada. In Canada, you go out and you spend for two people eating normal regular food. I mean, going to a restaurant. I think at that time you can spend $60 and sometimes $100, right?
And that was
us to
back in
go out.
2020. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, you're up over 100 almost.
So, but in Qatar, it's very, we can go out and eat, and it's almost like we're spending $30 or $40 for both of us if you do the conversion.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's
but
a
if you
good
go to, but based on restaurant though, some restaurants
yes.
are a little more
Okay, but
expensive.
here's a good example. So the most recent we've gone to Canada was in December of 2022. Yes, when we ordered pad thai from like a mall food court. Okay, mall food court. I got pad thai, you got pad thai, and it cost us almost $52 or something like that. Ridiculous.
Canadian dollars.
In Canadian dollars, like 52 Canadian dollars.
So that's like 40.
If I was to buy
American.
2 things of pad thai here in Qatar, it would cost me like, I don't know, $15, like 20, maybe 20 tops. Like the amount of money, the amount of food I could have got for that $55 I'd spent on 2 things in Canada, I could have got for like to feed 5 or 6 people here. Same thing is like if you're going to a restaurant, let's say like your Cheesecake Factories, your Outback Steakhouse, your your Moxie's, like those types of restaurants that they're not top high, but they're not like your fast food. Here we're probably spending maybe 60, maybe 70, tops 80 US dollars. So let's say tops $100 Canadian, and that's if we're getting like drinks, appetizers, and 2 meals, or no appetizer for 2 meals and a dessert, tops, right? In Canada, that would be costing us 120, 130. Like, yeah, eating out here is so cheap. Takeout here, if you're ordering takeout here, again, depending on which restaurant you're going to, but all I'm saying is there is cheaper options.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the I would say the only exception is some of the restaurant chains that are like, let's say American or British, their foods are pretty
similar in price.
Comparison, but I still find it cheaper here. Like when we go to McDonald's here and order the exact same thing we'd order at McDonald's in Canada, I still think it's cheaper here.
I think it's almost the same.
Americans say it's more expensive, but I think as a Canadian, I think it's still cheaper.
Okay.
Because so for example, what we ordered last night was we ordered 4 junior chickens, would be the equivalent. Say 4 junior chickens, 2 fries, and
2 crunchy chicken.
And 2 crunchy chickens, and it was like 52 reals, which is what? 10
divided by 3.64.
3.64.
So
it's like, let's say it's $20. That's like $20. I know when we went to Canada, I ordered 4 junior chickens and 1 fry. It was $25. So I still think it's cheaper here. It's still cheaper. Takeout food. When it comes to grocery shopping, it really depends on what you like to eat here. Some things are really cheap. Anything that's like locally made, like locally produced here or produced around this area, really cheap. In general, I would still say groceries are still way cheaper here than other places. Some people will have the opposite opinion. Some people will be like, no, it's really expensive to go grocery shopping here.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on where you're coming from. I would say on average we spend about 150 US, maybe 200, and that's now with masters. That's now including like formula, if we're buying formula that week, diapers, wipes, but plus baby supplies. Maybe 200 US for that's maybe a week, every 2 weeks kind of thing. I know in Canada I would probably be spending 300-400 a week because it's just I would say like the expensive stuff here is the stuff that you have to import. So things like cereal, like I almost pay $6 or $7, $8 dollars for a box of cereal here.
Yeah.
Right. So I pay a lot for my boxes of cereal here, but then I'm paying like literally 3 pennies for an entire container of cucumbers, or I'm paying 6 pennies for this much blueberries. So like it really.
Sometimes it's almost like balances out.
It kind of balances, yeah.
Yeah. I think one that I just know that it's for sure cheaper here, or I don't know, is Eating Out.
Yeah.
But like the groceries almost balances out sometimes because
Yeah.
things like broccoli, which they import
Yeah.
them from Australia and other places, you can see that
Expensive.
they're expensive.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and living here generally, I don't know.
I mean,
Like here or in
we
Canada,
like
like
it here.
here more.
We like it here. We like it here. Gas
In
prices
Canada.
definitely way cheaper here.
Yep.
Like, I can't even tell you what the equivalent. I think I can. I paid 120 reals to fill up our gigantic Nissan. 120 reals, which is like what? What's that equivalency?
Divide by 3.
Okay, you're making me do my math too. 40 US, so like let's say 60. Let's say $60 to fill up an SUV sized car in gas. And I don't know what the gas prices are in Canada right now, but I sure know it's more than $60 because I know I used to pay $50 to fill up my Cavalier.
Yeah.
So I can tell you to fill up an SUV right now in Canada is definitely more than $60. So that's what I think. I think there is people have different opinions on, oh, it's expensive, or oh, it's cheap. For us,
Gas for sure is cheap here. I can't even think anyone that would say it's expensive.
But
maybe
I
it's
think-
coming from Saudi or maybe the other, even because these
Yeah.
countries that have oil around this side, they're cheaper.
Exactly.
Right?
I think for
So-
us, from a Canadian perspective to Qatar is cheaper on almost everything. When you're looking at food, housing, whether it's a little bit or a lot,
Yeah.
I would still say Qatar still falls on the cheaper end compared to
The
Canadian.
Western world, right? Or
Yeah.
Canadian. Because we're not thinking about if you're coming from Africa, you can't say, right?
Exactly.
So if you're coming from Africa, look at this with a different
perspective.
because it's
Yeah.
cheaper there, right? So if you're coming from Canada and other Western country, but specifically we're comparing it Canada versus Qatar.
Yeah.
So it's cheaper here.
And the one thing I would say about Qatar, which was similar to like living in Africa or in Nigeria, was that there is lots of variety of things you can do. So depending on where your income is, like, you can go and get the really cheap street food, right?
Yep,
You can
that's
find
one good thing.
You can
all year
find the
round.
restaurants here that are like
They have the
in
cheap
in a
local,
little local
they have-
area.
yeah.
They just have literally a takeout window. You can buy food super cheap.
They have the expensive area, then they have the cheap area.
You have,
They
the
can
most
go to, like,
expensive
fancy.
restaurants that you can go and drop hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars at, right? So you can, depending on your lifestyle and your income, you can kind of live the way you want. And I feel like that's kind of missing now in Canada. Like, I feel like even if
It's
you're
always been
trying,
missing in Canada. What do you
that
mean?
means,
Canada been
yeah,
missing?
like there's a certain point where like you
Missing in Canada.
can't get, like, the cheapest food you can kind of get is fast food in Canada,
Yeah.
which is like is still expensive, whereas here
The
you can
only
get even
time-
cheaper.
And the only time you get that is when they're having an event in Canada in the summertime, or hot dog stand where people sell hot dog downtown
Yeah.
Toronto, like that kind of food. But cheap stuff, no. And if your shoes or my wristwatch cut up, I could take
Yeah.
it to anyone and I can fix it for cheap. In Canada, they'll tell you, oh no, I'm going to take it in, they're going to examine it
Yeah.
and then try to change it. So it's going to cost you more than the price of the wristwatch.
Yeah.
Whereas
Because here
here
they
you can
still
get
have
it.
they have markets here still,
Yeah,
right? So they have like
little
what they call
outside
souks.
market, all the
So they have outdoor markets and they're full functioning markets and stores, but just everything's done slightly cheaper here when it comes to that stuff.
yeah.
That's
So
the big things. That's food, housing, transportation. It's cheaper.
transportation. People they also have public transport as well. It's very
Still
cheap as well.
Yeah.
Very cheap public transport. And yeah,
Even parking, like we don't pay for parking here.
there's no parking.
I think I've paid. Actually, no, that's a lie. You do pay for parking at
Oh, when you
some
go
malls.
into,
When you
like-
go really, really downtown.
That's
But
downtown
the
area. It's
equivalency is like
so cheap.
$1
like
an
nothing.
hour, like $1 an hour. That's literally the equivalency.
So $1 an hour of
Parking, like,
parking in
literally-
Canada. In downtown Toronto, you're gonna be paying like $20 or.
Oh yeah, an hour almost. You pay like
Because
$6, $7, $8, $9, $10 an
I
hour,
used to downtown when I was working there. It was expensive.
or like $40 a day or something.
Most people don't want
Yeah.
to drive there.
Yeah. Whereas
right?
I've spent like I said, I spend more money on my boxes of cereal than I did ever do on parking. So, and most places here don't charge you for parking.
But outside the downtown core and other places that you go is free parking.
Free parking.
Free
You don't
parking.
pay for
And
parking.
it's like, what? I don't pay? Wow, okay.
I don't pay for hospital parking. You want to talk about medical care?
Yes, medical care as
Public
well.
medical care here is like super, super subsidized. I spent a week in public hospital here, and I paid the equivalency of like $40.
Yep.
Like that's what I paid for an entire week of being in the hospital, being on medication, and that's including the prescription stuff that I took home from the hospital.
How much was it in real that you paid? Was it $40?
Yeah, I think it was like 100. I think it was just over 100. I think it was 140 reals or something like that I paid.
Yeah.
And that included my night stay, plus all the prescription medication I got
4
there.
days in the hospital.
Almost 5.
Almost 5 days in the hospital.
Or
And
4
that's
days
it.
in the hospital, plus the actual emergency visit. Like I went into the emergency room.
And then that include we went to buy, we bought they gave us drugs and they were
Yeah,
like, yeah.
and sure, in Canada, if I went into the emergency room and went to the hospital, sure, I wouldn't have paid anything for my stay in Canada. Now, I would have had to wait a lot longer in the emergency room because I was in extreme pain, but I definitely was not in a life-threatening situation. So I would have waited hours, probably, in a hospital in Canada, whereas I waited less than 10 minutes in Qatar. And it probably, yeah, and then I put in a wheelchair and ushered in and was immediately looked after. And so, yeah, in Canada, I wouldn't have had to pay for my stay in the hospital, fine. But anything they sent me prescription-wise home with, unless you have insurance through your employer, you would have paid for all that medication, which definitely would have been more than $40.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of give or take. And that's the public care system here. There is also a private medical system here. Again, if you have insurance that covers it, you're usually pretty good to go. Like, we went to the dentist office and I had to pay a 20% copay, and I think I still only paid, I think it was like 200 reals,
yeah.
which again was like $50-$60 to get our teeth cleaned.
Yeah.
Like, you know, is the thing. I have to stop and think about how much money the copay actually was, because it was such a little amount of money that I didn't really even think about it. Right? Like I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
What else do you want to add? I feel like I've been talking.
Yeah, you've been talking, so I'll let you
Your turn.
talk. Well, I got nothing else to say. She said everything that needed to be said. But, I mean, I still love Canada. That's the truth. I don't know, for some reason, I still have
Of course.
my
It's like
attachment to Canada. I think one thing that I want to add, though, when it comes to services, some services,
yeah.
Canada is still good, very good in service. I won't say extreme, but yeah, it's good. Here, their service can be shitty sometimes, very shitty. Especially you go to places like driver's school.
Yeah.
They just shitty service, and they don't care about you. They'll be talking, and you're standing there looking. And
there's no
I don't know.
rush. People here just don't have. It's kind of like that. Like,
That's government
your
offices though,
time.
not private. I mean, not restaurant. The restaurant, they tend to be very good.
But again, people have mixed feelings about that though.
I guess.
Because if you're used to like a European or a US service where they're like go 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 go, they're at their table, they're asking what you want. Here's not like that. They kind of view that as rudeness. Like, you actually have to ask to order. Like, you have to put up your hand and get them to order sometimes. So like there's also cultural differences. So if you're not aware of the cultural differences, you're like, it's crappy service, but it's like, well,
I'm even concerned about, I don't even care about the restaurant. I'm concerned about the public offices.
Yeah,
These
there's
guys,
just less.
it's just
I guess if you're used
just
to
like
order,
they don't care.
well, not
They just
that.
want to relax and do their thing as they wish.
There's no
Yeah,
rush.
what are you gonna do about it?
There's no rush. There's no order, right? So like in Canada, if you go in, you take the number and you just wait your turn. And when your number gets called, and your number will be called, you go up and you take your turn. And in Canada, they'll just keep calling numbers after numbers after numbers after numbers. Here, you might take a number and you might sit down, but then the machines turn off, or they let someone else go in front of you because they're, paid money to go in front of you, or they just decide they're going to take their lunch break and then they close down and they stop taking.
And they won't even tell you they're taking lunch break. They will disappear, or they will keep talking. Someone comes and they're talking to their colleague. The other day I went to one of the driver's office, picked my number, and they're calling people, and then it came to my turn, and one of the colleagues just came to work, and they just sat and they're talking. And I'm like, we're waiting. And I got up and I was tired, and I called security and said, what's going on? Security talked to them, they ignored him. So I just went there and I stood. I'm like, I need to get done. Are we doing something or what? And the lady said, oh, it's not me, it's the other one. Then I rushed the other one, like, but you can't just let us sit down and you're talking to yourselves without giving a care.
Yeah.
And no one cares. And that's one thing I miss in Canada. I miss that thing. I'm like,
the
no,
miss the
I don't.
order,
The service is not. I don't know. I just don't like that. That's the part that I don't like.
That's
Just be,
That's true.
yeah. So not all bad in Canada. That's something they're like, I miss Canada for this kind of stuff. This thing cannot fly in Canada. Or you know when I went to drivers training, if you ever
Yeah,
go to that. Well, when I went to like, I don't know what you guys are doing here.
Oh, that's really unusual though, because usually the
No,
bathroom.
the bathroom in other places are nice, but like some places like there, especially the drive there.
Yeah.
So like, but then malls and other places they got top notch stuff.
Yeah. When it comes to okay, we can talk about malls and shopping. When it comes to shopping, things are pretty equal. I would say like. You're not getting a better deal coming to Qatar than you are Canada. I would say like if you'd pay almost the exact same amount of money when you do the equivalencies.
A little bit better.
You pay less taxes here, so some
you don't
do
pay
a little
taxes.
bit. Oh, you don't pay
less taxes.
You don't pay taxes on those types of things. So you might be a little bit better here, but it's not enough to be like go crazy, right? The one exception to this is shoes. Shoes here are
expensive
brutally expensive here.
Especially Jordan or the Nike. And
yeah, anything like that that's shipped in,
expensive.
Brutal. So that's the one exception I would say to shopping. But when you go to like the other stores, I would say they're pretty much, equivalency. You might end up paying slightly less just because you have to include the taxes and on top. Yeah, but that's it.
Yeah. So I think
entertainment. You should talk about like entertainment, like things to do. Things to do in Canada, things to do in the U.S. Or even not the U.S. Canada versus Qatar.
I think it's the same.
Yeah, but you gotta tell people that. They don't know that.
Well, it's the same. I know.
There's someone viewing this is thinking that Qatar, there's nothing to do.
Oh, actually, yeah. A lot of, I don't know. I thought we were going to do that video different. That's why I was like.
No, but just talk about in general.
Entertainment or people here, like, there are clubs that you can actually go to. People don't believe that it's club in Qatar, but there are clubs that you can go to
straight to that.
in Qatar. I'm going to say to that because most people will believe that, oh, yeah, you go to a club there. Or even when we went to one brunch one time and then I show a little video, people were like, what? People partying like that in Qatar? Because they always believe that it's a strict Christian, Muslim country where you don't touch each other, you're just strict, and that's it. Yeah. Pray, go home, work, and that's it.
Put it this way,
but it's not like that.
That you can do in Canada, when it comes to like things you like to do for fun, besides obviously snow-oriented things, you can do them in Qatar. Like if you want to play a sport, it's gonna happen in Qatar. If you want to go to malls, you can do that here. Aquariums, museums, art galleries, markets outdoors, street events, like you name it, it happens here. Yeah, brunches, dinners out, clubs, bars, it just all the beaches, it depends on time, place, location, all that stuff. But and same as Canada, because you can go to the beach in December, right?
So you can pretty much do any of that. Just like in Canada, maybe you can see someone may be drunk on the street. You're not allowed to be drunk here. You're gonna go to jail, right? And for you to get drinking here, it's always by license.
Yes.
You have to get a license to go buy it. You can just buy alcohol anywhere. That's true. Just the thing. So, but the restaurant usually, obviously, they have licenses. So then
rephrase that.
You get that.
Restaurants inside hotels have licenses.
Inside hotels.
Restaurants outside of a hotel, very few have licenses. There is a some, but usually it's the restaurants within a hotel that have a license to serve alcohol.
Yeah, but you need a license.
Yeah.
To be able to get alcohol here in Qatar, but in Canada you don't have to. You can go get your alcohol anytime.
Is the other exception.
You can just pork products. You need license to get that too. So if you're coming to Qatar and like those things, you gotta watch all this and then get used to it. And you can't just bring them in either. So
no.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's the end of the video, right? If you think of something, we're gonna do another video where we can discuss living in Qatar. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, guys.
Yeah, subscribe.
You can just there me talk to them too.
I talk the whole video. You talk. My voice is done. I need water. I need water.
All right, I need water.
Me too. Water break. See you later.